Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third part of this three-part series on the love series, How to Get a Boyfriend or a Girlfriend. Okay, so if you're at this stage now, you have basically connected with that significant other. You have a relationship going, things are working out. And well, basically, we know from science that when you first get in a relationship, you go through what is known as the infatuation stage, where everything is perfect, everything is wonderful, everything is lovey dovey. So then you should be all good and set to go during that stage. Now, what comes after it is the work that you need to do in order to make the relationship last, as I had mentioned. If you haven't seen part one and part two of this video series, I recommend you go and watch that first, and then you come back to this third video where I'm going to get into how to actually make the relationship last. Okay. So the first tip is very, very practical too. And as soon as you start to enter problem, conflict territory with your significant other, the number one tip is listen, listen, and listen, and shut up. Okay, so what this means basically is that you're going to have to listen to what the other person has to say, and kind of like you did in the first step, where you kind of have to change your physical appearance and kind of get some of these like social and communicative skills going. You transform yourself. In this case, to make the relationship last, you are going to have to change. You're going to have to make some changes. Your significant other is also going to have to make some changes. You guys are going to have to negotiate, adjust, adapt to each other, right? Because this is where problems basically manifest themselves, right? Disagreements, conflicts, fights, So listen means the very least thing you can do is listen. What I mean by listen is not responding, not talking back. A lot of times, and then you will get your turn to also speak, right? And your significant other must also do the same and listen, right? So there are moments when one of you will be in emotional, stress, or feeling bad, or, something's going on, either because of something going on in their lives or just in general because something's happening in the relationship. And what you need to do in those cases is listen, right? That's all you have to do is listen, let the other person talk about their feelings, right? And shut up basically means being able to listen, but also, if you can, paraphrase what that person has just said, right? Like if the person just expressed certain emotions, this is super hard to do. I'm not able to do it yet, but if you can, it would really show empathy at a very advanced level, because the person ultimately is attacking you. But what you need to do is at least listen, shut up. And if you can, paraphrase what they have said so they feel heard and understood. But the very least thing you can do is just be quiet and listen to what that person has to do, or listen to what that person has to say. And this is going to transform you. This is going to give you insight into the changes and the type of perspective shifts that you have to make in your own life, in your adjustments, right? You also need to learn to talk about how you feel. This is very hard. It takes a lot of practice, but once you do it, it feels good. So this means that you need to be able to verbalize your emotions. That's super hard. It seems very easy, but this takes a lot of introspection, right? And figuring out your needs when the other person is in your life now, right? So this means that you have to be able to identify what type of needs you have, which you're going to discover a lot of things about yourself in a long-term relationship, needs that you didn't even know were there. Childish needs, and these type of needs, the good thing about them is, even though they may be embarrassing, the person you're with loves you, so they're going to be able to understand you and adapt to those needs, because sometimes they're just little insignificant needs, right, that are embarrassing. But if you put your pride and your ego aside, and you become sensible, and open to the person, then communication will flow, adjustments will be made, and things will flow smoothly, right? So yeah, learn to talk about how you feel. Negotiation on matters that matter. You need to be able to negotiate things, that quid pro quo. A lot of people, and this is huge on topics that a lot of couples don't want to talk about, like money, family, your family, my family, things like that, your friends, my friends. Talk about those things, talk about money. Once I saw a fight at a restaurant. This couple was fighting with kids because they wouldn't agree on who was going to pay the bill. And I think they were drinking too. It was kind of a disaster scene. Um, but yeah, all these things happen because the guy will say, "Well, you pay because I paid." The last thing we bought or whatever, the last place we went to. No, don't assume things, like talk about those things. And a lot of times you say, well, I'm a nice person. Yeah, you're a nice person, but you're also not going to let an injustice fly. Like, you have to talk about those things, like who's going to pay what's going to happen, you know negotiating. And Chris Voss has a book on negotiation called Never Split the Difference. And in it, he talks about how you shouldn't split the difference, right? Like, if you both want that pair of shoes, you're not going to say, you take a shoe and I take a shoe. No, like, you take the shoes, but I get the speakers, or whatever. Like, he calls those type of gray areas black swans, where you need to talk to get to them. Like, maybe you want a raise from your boss, but your boss doesn't have the money to pay you more, but maybe he can give you like an extra day off, or more vacation time, or more benefits, right? Like, there are gray areas. Like, it doesn't have to be so black and white. It's either this or that, or it's either everything or nothing. No, like, look for those black swans, negotiate. There are a lot of quid pro quo things, like tit for tat, this for that, right? Like, I'm thinking of, like, if you guys are fighting about something, in the relationship, well, you get to do this, but I get to do that, right? And maybe it's something that you both can live with. I don't know. That depends entirely on the couples, on the personality of the people, right, involved. Some couples will be flexible enough to let these things fly, those things fly, as long as I'm getting something in return. I mean, you have to factor in the justice, the justice factor into the relationship. Otherwise, it becomes a power struggle, an unspoken power struggle, where it's just like all these power dynamics that make the relationship ugly. And then the four horsemen of the relationships come about, right? Like resentment and all those things, and they just deteriorate the relationship. So what you need to do is talk about those, negotiate the terms and conditions of the problems that you're having, and agree to all these things, right? Um, so just to kind of finish up this video, after the infatuation stage, you get into the commitment stage. And commitment, you're going to learn a lot about the other person, but also about yourself. And to keep the flame alive, because you may get stuck in the routine, like Shakira says, in the monotony, right? Um, to keep the flame alive, what you're going to want to do is experience new things together. Like you could do this. You can share experiences that one of you has done and the other hasn't, right? Like, teach each other about different things. If you know how to do something and your significant other doesn't, teach them, or vice versa. If they know how to do something and you don't, have them teach you. These could be fun activities. These could be any type of hobbies, activities, any type of ordeal. Yeah, let each other into each other's worlds, basically. And you can also try new things together, right? Things that you both haven't done, go out and experience them, right? Have fun. That's to keep the flame alive, right? So again, you don't get stuck in the routine. So just to kind of recap everything, The infatuation stage is awesome. It's all pink and flowers. But after that, you're going to have to listen, right? A lot, transform yourself, make changes, adapt, shut up, be quiet, and let the other person talk. And then, you will have your turn, obviously. Factor in the justice factor, right? Learn how to talk about how you feel, right? You're going to discover a lot of things about yourself. It takes practice, but once you learn how to do it, you'll feel good about it. Negotiate on matters that matter, right? Look for the gray areas, the black swans, right? Look for those things that maybe, are insignificant to the other person, but are really important to you, or vice versa. And to keep the flame alive, teach each other about things that both of you already know, and go out and do new things and have new experiences together, right? So this concludes my 3-part series on how to get a boyfriend, girlfriend, how to find love, because like I said in the first video, love is important. If you haven't watched the first and the second part, I recommend you go and watch those ones too, as well as this one to conclude. Let me know how your emotional romantic relationship experience is going out there. I hope these videos helped you, and I'll see you in the next one, all right? Peace.